people that will judge, and not believe, what's coming out of my mouth because they don't see how I live.
Yeah, well, obviously they can't see that whole thing, and also that would, from the way I would also perceive it when I'm speaking, and I notice that it's the state they're in.
Right. Absolutely.
When they're there, right? And
No
that's
question.
that's one of the things we always tell people, like, go to a meeting, and if you're not jiving with the meeting, find another group. Don't say meetings are not for you.
Right.
That meeting
Absolutely.
may not be for you, because there's going to be people like you at meetings where you go, I'm going to go where Todd goes. I'm going to go because it's uplifting, it's motivational, it's inspiring. He touches me. We're not sharing war stories. We're actually sharing hope, real hope and possibility.
Right.
Now, of course, we understand why people share some of the things, why they feel so bad, because sometimes they're thinking that if I keep reminding myself on how horrible things were, I'll never do it again.
Right.
But all that does is put you in the very state that you wanted to avoid in the first place.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because when I was down here last time, I attended an event, and the girl that was teaching it was called. Doesn't matter what it was called. It was a really cool event. But she taught me that sometimes if I only share the outcome, and I only share the outcome, and only share the outcome, that people don't really care about my outcome. I care,
Right.
but many people don't care about how great and awesome my life is. They want to hear, how I struggled,
Right.
how I overcame it, and then how I got to this outcome.
Right. Well, it's
which
got to
is-
be the contrast.
Absolutely. Without the contrast, there is no, I want that too, because he didn't suffer what I suffered. He didn't experience any of the things that I experienced. So, he's just living on a pink cloud, they call
Right.
it. But I guess I've been on a pink cloud for like 28 years. Not to say that I haven't struggled and haven't had hard times. I
Right.
have. And I've had many things to overcome.
When you're in that openness and that state of gratitude, you can then overcome those challenges with grace and elegance, because you're like, hey, this is just part of life.
Absolutely.
To expect, I love, I'll often ask, when I'm in a group or a presentation, I'll say, who wishes they didn't have problems? A bunch of people raise their hands. We're like, oh, that would be great, no problems. I'm like, well, hold on, let's think about this. People without problems are dead in cemeteries. What you want are higher quality problems.
Absolutely.
Which is a better problem to have? What white tablecloth dining you're going to be doing, or which dumpster you're going to dive into.
Right. Absolutely.
They're both problems. People who dive into dumpsters don't like hearing about someone going, what do I do, Morton's or Ruth Chris tonight? Like, they don't want to have that, sort of in their face. But the reason why it gets so frustrating is, we know as we're eating at Morton's, the only reason why you're stuck in the dumpster is because that's what you're complaining and focusing on.
Absolutely.
You're not absorbing the opportunity to go, well, if I do the things and I start building other problems and I'm grateful for them. I mean, it's just that emotional and spiritual muscle, right? To build your businesses, did you have to overcome some challenges?
Yes. Many.
Did you know going into it that you would? You didn't know what challenges, but you knew you'd have some.
Some, sure. Absolutely.
Were they bigger than what you thought they were going to
In
be?
many cases, they were, for sure.
And what did you learn along the way, and what did you go into them knowing that you could
Overcome.
figure
Absolutely.
it out,
Figure it out.
and not know how, but just to be in that. And that's the balance. That's the balance of storytelling. I mean, is how do you share your story where you're not playing the victim, you're playing the victor, but still sharing the adversities and the challenges in a way that people can appreciate, not like in the woundology. Because what happens most times, someone goes, oh man, this was so effed up. And then someone goes, you think that's bad?
Right.
Man, I had like 10 times worse. And like we get into a competition on whose life got worse.
Sure.
And if we can flip that, and that's what you've done, is by leading by example, you can share the warrior's journey, show where you made those decisions. Like, what do you do when you do experience some pushback from life?
I pick different scenarios that, as opposed to this or that, or black or white, or good or bad, or and I learned this through my experience in the personal development world, is that, giving myself other options, more choices,
Right.
will allow me to find a solution quicker.
And how appropriate. If drugs and alcohol are not the problem, they've just been the solution or a strategy. The more strategies you have available, the more flexible you'll be in your approach to getting to your desired outcome, which is ultimately to be happy, fulfilled, peaceful, loving, all of those things. And there's so many other ways to do it besides just drugs and alcohol.
That's a good point. Absolutely.
And that's how you've. I'm really just getting that from what you've just shared. Is that you have been more flexible.
Absolutely.
And that in order to do that, that's how you built your businesses. That's how you built your relationships. I mean, heck, look how flexible you are. You came here. We met that one day. We both were very flexible. We spent a bunch of time together. And then you came in the next day. You came in and spoke, all because your goal is to have an impact, to make a difference in people's lives. And then by proxy, we benefit.
Absolutely.
And it's not because we're expecting it. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just show up
It
and
happened by osmosis.
Right. And then same thing, Jonathan will have on in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. I can't
Same
wait
thing. We spent a bunch of time. We spent like 40 minutes on the phone today just kind of learning about each other. And that's the gift of being open and serving. Like I look at us as servant leaders.
Absolutely.
Like that's just, we're here to serve, but leading by example. Not that we're going to sacrifice ourselves for someone else to the degree that we be drowning as well.
Right.
Like the example, which is if someone's drowning and you're in a boat and you're nice and dry and you're just doing great and they're drowning, which is a more successful strategy? To jump in, get underneath them and try and push them onto the boat, or to stay grounded on the boat and pull them to safety?
Pull them to safety, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so like your leadership is that wonderful exemplar of possibility and how to transmute it from possibility to probability.
Sure. It's funny, I said absolutely, okay, but it's only absolutely, obviously, to someone that sees it as being obvious, to pull them into the boat as opposed to jump in and push them up.
Right, and we don't do that consciously.
No.
It's some sort of those habits, and I think that oftentimes we do that energetically because we don't want someone to feel bad. Like we're because we're doing well at something. Like I'm sure when you were new in recovery, you saw people, and still do, but maybe you were more aware of when there were people who had more time, who were more successful, there was a bit of, envy or jealousy or thinking, telling a story why it's easier for them and not for somebody else.
Absolutely. I certainly have suffered from envy and jealousy, and fortunately, those aren't character assets today.
And you've changed it by just doing the work.
Absolutely. By constantly putting one foot in front of the other and just, being vigilant, to what I want, what the outcome I want.
Right.
So that I know what path I have to take to get there. It's quite evident that, lying, cheating, conning, manipulating, is not going to get me to the outcome that I want.
It's not sustainable.
Ever.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not sustainable.